Hey, we're up here in Orillia, Ontario, and we are going to look at an off-market duplex. And we thought we'd bring you guys along to show you what we look for when we're looking at potential investments.
Hey guys, real quick, just wanted to let you know before we get started that this duplex is actually for sale off-market. So if you like what you see at the end of this video, click the link so it takes you where we go over the numbers and other details.
All right, the first thing that we noticed here was that this has a flat roof. So some would be thrown off by that, as your typical duplex is going to have a pitched roof with asphalt shingles. So given this has a flat roof, there is some potential things to be concerned of, but at the same time, selfishly myself, well, I actually like flat roofs. I think it gives a nice contemporary, modern look if you were to upgrade the outside, so potential upside there. But the main things to be concerned about would be if it's done properly. But if done properly, you can get a great life expectancy out of a flat roof. But the things that need to be done properly is the slope. So basically when the water lands on there, it needs to be sloped and directed to get off of the roof and not sit up there. One other huge bonus in walking around the outside of this property is this right here. You can see we've got two separate hydrometers. So given this is a 2-unit property, as an investor, you always want to try and get any cost you can and pass that on to the tenant. So given that we've got 2 separate hydrometers, big plus. Keeping outside here, the other nice thing is that this duplex is actually side by side. So often you'll find duplexes being upstairs, downstairs, and one tenant has to be in the lower basement, which is sometimes not always. Well, I figure on a side-by-side, all above grade, you can get higher rents. So the other beautiful thing with this property is you've got 2 driveways. So this side here has their own driveway, and this side over here has their own driveway. And even nicer on this side, they've got their own garage. All right, we're inside in the basement now, which is a great thing. It's actually one of my favorite because you can see the internal components, the mechanical systems, to see how the house is set up. So in keeping with the separate hydrometers, which we already touched on, inside now we can see the 2 separate panels. So here's a couple things to keep in mind when looking at the electrical panels. So the first thing, you can see this main switch here. We've got 100 amps, so that's what you like to see. So we've got 100 amps on this one, and then if I come over here, you can see we got 100 amps on this one. So just things to be wary of. You might find a property that has 60 amps, and if you're doing that, and maybe if it's not set up properly, you might find yourself in a position where you got to spend money, you got to upgrade the service with the utility to get the 100 amp breakers in there, which is more commonly found now for all of the devices and things that we're using these days. The other important consideration when we're looking at the wires, you can see some of these older wires, it's sometimes a concern that it could be aluminum wiring. So as it turns out, we actually found this little piece right up here that was cut off, and but you can actually see the inside of the wire, and that's exactly what we want to see. And you can see that it's got the copper look to it, so it's a good sign. So it's not absolute assurance that we don't have aluminum wiring here, but it's a pretty good indication that it's predominantly going to be copper wiring. So we're still down here in the basement, and right here you can see that we have the water meter. So this is the main water meter coming in, and this is actually servicing both units. So we have one water meter here, unlike the hydrometers where you have the 2 separate ones where you can pass that cost onto the tenant. In this case, the one water meter means that that cost would be burdened by the landlord. So you're going to have to, or just know in advance that you're going to be paying for the water. Next thing we're going to talk about down here in the basement, we've got number 1 here and number 2 over there. These are your hot water tanks. So each unit has their own hot water tank. In this case, they're electric, which is nice because we have those separate meters, so the tenants are going to pay for their own hot water. And the other thing that's important when looking at these hot water tanks is to know if they are rented or owned. Often they'll be rented, which is fine because if anything goes wrong with it, you just call the company you're renting it from. But that's going to come with a monthly expense every single month. I would say typical cost to rent one of these units, each of them would be close to 20 bucks. So in this case, this property, they're owned, which is great because you're basically saving $40 a month that you would ordinarily be spending if these two hot water tanks were rented. And looking at the furnace now, we can see, well, first off, looks like we have a newer unit here. The other things that I can tell is we have air conditioning. And then just kind of looking around and mapping out where the ductwork is going, it looks as if this is our main dividing wall here. We've got a nice concrete block dividing wall that separates the two units. But in seeing that, it seems as if that this furnace is only actually servicing the one side. So that'll be something that we'll have to look for once we get inside and start looking at the units themselves. All right, we're inside now. Just looking around here, we can see, so obviously we're in the kitchen here. We've got a back door here that leads to a nice deck in the backyard. In the kitchen, fairly upgraded. Probably existing cabinets, but we've got at least an updated countertop, which is one of the easiest things to switch out anyways. But based off what I can see, this kitchen is turnkey. So if we were to buy this place, we wouldn't have to do anything in here. The appliances are good. We got some nice flooring here. The flooring looks as if it's actually the new vinyl product, which is really nice. It's the kind of product that I like to put into all the rentals that we do renovations on. It's just very durable, waterproof, and it looks great. Modern, contemporary. So we got a smaller little living room here, but it's really cozy enough for what we've got here. We've got a one-bedroom apartment here. Other things to look at, these windows. So we're looking at the windows. A little trick for you. It doesn't always work, but sometimes if we look in the window frame, and we can see. So these windows were installed in 2002. So it actually looks like a pretty good quality window given the age, because we're sitting at, what, 16 years old. But these windows look like you'll easily get another 10 years out of them. And that's just based off of a quality window. And typically if you're looking at like a newer built home, they're not always using the best windows, and that's where you always see the foggy windows. All right, we're now looking at the gas fireplace, which is a nice touch. I was actually, when we were down in the basement, I was wondering if we would see electric baseboards. I was wondering what the heating element would be in this unit, this far unit over here. So we've got the gas fireplace, which is great. I can also see that we've got a thermostat here and an older thermostat here, which leads me to believe that we're probably using this thermostat here, which is great, because the tenant can set this at a temperature they want, and that's going to control whether or not the fireplace comes on. So it looks like this is our dominant heat source, which is great, because tenants, well, A, it's gas, which is much more efficient than heating with hydro, and it's just a perk. It's something that a tenant would, I guess you're minimizing an objection that you would get from a tenant if you had electric baseboard heat. But just looking, if we come on in here into the washroom, we can see that we actually do have one electric baseboard meter, and that's fine. So we're just, it's for servicing this washroom. So while in the washroom, I can see they run the same vinyl flooring into here. You know, one thing that I can see here, we have an older toilet. It almost would make sense if we upgraded this to a low flow toilet, given that if we were buying this as an investment, we'd want to try and minimize our water costs as best we could. So that's just a thing that we could possibly do to lower expenses, which is something you always want to look at when looking at properties. So, and then if we look in the shower, this is exactly what you want to have, a kind of shower you want in a rental. Fully enclosed, seamless. There's no cause for concern of water getting behind and causing mold issues. The only other thing is that we don't have a ventilation fan in here, but we do have a window. So it's just always best to probably advise your tenants when they're taking a shower to just crack that window and let some of that humidity out. Into the bedroom here. So this is a one-bedroom apartment. This is the sole bedroom, but from my perspective, I mean, this is a great size. There's plenty of room to put your bed, a dresser. We've got a closet here. And then another great perk that tenants always want is in-suite laundry. So, I mean, it's in the bedroom, which maybe not ideal, but at the same time, it's probably most convenient for them because this is where they keep all their clothes. So, so that's a great touch. I like that we've got a smoke alarm in here, which that's great to see. And again, a nice window facing the backyard. And they've run the vinyl flooring in here. So from my perspective, this is really turnkey. There's really nothing to do for this apartment. Just buy and rent. So we can see that each side has a nice side to the deck, which is good. As a tenant, you always want to kind of have your own area and not kind of shared, so we've got a dividing wall there, which is great. And really, what a nice little setting. I mean, private. You can see the neighbor's property here. We got hole 6 there, par 2. Looks like we got a mini golf course over here. So if you make good friends, well, you can promote to your tenants. If you make friendly with your neighbors, you might be able to play a couple holes. Twilight rate. Let's check out the backyard. This property just keeps going and going and going. So we must have a very, very big property, which in itself is very attractive. We've got lots of trees, lots of evergreens, which is nice because you're not going to get a whole lot of foliage falling, even though we have here, because obviously foliage means yard maintenance, and you're not always going to get that done by the tenant. So that would be the responsibility of you, the landlord. So something to keep in mind as another cost that could be up, that you'd have to do an annual yard maintenance just to kind of clean up some of the debris that's fallen.